Good morning, and as you've probably guessed, we've changed venues. We've left Maison and we've come over to Sky Lake, which is just east of Paris, to finish off carp tackle tactics and tips. But don't worry, we're going to go back to Maison periodically because there are some more whackers that we haven't shown you yet. And while we're here at Sky, we're going to make one of our TV shows called Thinking Tackle for Sky Sports. And literally within an hour of getting here yesterday, one of the other guys who's just turned up for a week's fishing has had a 50-pounder, and an absolute stunning fish. And when you go up in the lodge and have a look at all the pictures of the fish in here, it's quite incredible. There's almost fully scaled in here. I think there's 15 to 20 50s in 16 acres, 3 60s and a 70, and a load of nuisance 30s and 40s as well. So if we're very, very lucky, we might get one of those on the bank for you as well. But for now, let's get on with bite indication. If you've seen any of the shows that I've done on Sky, or you've seen any of the writing that I've done in the magazines, you'll know that my fishing is extremely varied. I could be fishing anything from a little tiny 3-acre lake in Essex somewhere to a 10,000-acre reservoir in France where you're fishing out 300 metres and there's loads of drag on the line. And there's really only one buzzer that's going to cope with all those situations, and that is the Delkim. Now, the Delkim has got a patented vibration system, so it doesn't work like most other buzzers that have got a roller. It's actually the line moving over a ceramic V that causes a vibration and makes the buzzer go off. The Delkim hasn't got any moving parts, and that's one of the reasons I moved over to it from a roller buzzer. I didn't know that was the reason at the time, but basically in a fishing situation, I'd had some freaky weather, it had rained really hard, and then it went really, really cold, and my roller buzzers froze. And then in the morning I got a take, and because the roller had frozen solid, I wasn't getting any bleeps on the buzzer at all. I still managed to get the fish in, but from then on I vowed I'd never have that situation happen to me again. So that's why I moved over to him. Coupled with the fact I went fishing with a guy called Sean Harrison, who's a fantastic angler, and he was using Delkims and little tiny light bobbins, and he was getting indications that I simply wasn't getting, and that was the second reason for moving over to him. The range of sensitivity is huge, and a lot of people have said to me, oh, Delkims are too sensitive, but if you turn them down to the minimum sensitivity, you might need 2 inches of movement on the line to get one bleep. So when you're fishing in those really stormy conditions on the big venues, they're still not going off if you've got heavy enough bobbin. And then at the other end of the spectrum, you can use a little tiny light bobbin, have it on maximum sensitivity, and they go off on minute movements of the line. And they don't only indicate a run, they'll indicate how fast the fish is going. So basically the faster it goes, the faster the buzzer will actually warble at you as well. And the other thing about a vibration system is if the fish is clever enough to pick the bait up, hook itself and not run, and you're getting any tremors down the line, the Delkim will carry on going off, where a roller buzzer would just stop. Delkim's been going over 30 years now, and any of the old school anglers will know that Del used to convert the heron buzzers and then went on to doing optonics, which eventually he wasn't allowed to do anymore, and that forced him to come up with this one, and thank God he did. Now, all the buzzers are designed, tested and made in the UK, and because it's a family run business, every single one is tested by hand. That means that they're able to give you a 2-year guarantee on the buzzer, and they've got fantastic after-sales service. So if anything ever goes wrong, which is highly unlikely, you can just send it back to them, they'll repair it in a couple of days and it'll get straight back to you, and nobody else can offer that sort of service. So let's have a look at the features that are common to all Delkims. First of all, the twin LEDs. Having them either side of the rod means whatever side you're sitting, you can still see the LED go off. They come in 6 different colours, they're extremely bright. I have yellow, green and red, which is quite unusual. Most people have the same colour in all their rods, but I like to know which one's going off in the night. And then on these TXIs, there's a plus and minus setting, which basically means how much vibration it takes to start the buzzer going. So the plus is very, very sensitive, and the minus is not so sensitive. So if you're using braided reel line, which has got no stretch, you need to have them on the minus, and you don't have to have them set on 6 all the time. That's the thing a lot of people do wrong. They have them on the plus, on maximum sensitivity, and they're going off at the slightest movement. If I'm fishing on these big reservoirs, I might have them on sensitivity number 1, and on the minus setting, so it takes maybe 2 inches of line before I'll get a bleep, and then they're not going off when it's really, really windy. The tone and volume are also really easy to adjust, and on the tone setting, there's one of them that's just that little bit louder than all the others for some reason. It's between 5 and 6 in the high tone range, and it just seems that little bit more piercing. Now in contrast, some people like having them on the low tone because it sounds so different, and if you're all sitting in one swim, you know it's your rods that are going off. And on the volume, they go down to nothing, and I mean nothing. I mean, you couldn't hear them if you were more than a couple of feet away from your rods. And some people like that because they don't want other people to know they're getting takes, or if you're fishing in the edge and you're getting liners, you don't want a really loud buzzer because you might be spooking the fish away from the edge. In the other end of the spectrum, they're extremely loud, and you can probably hear them 20, 30 yards away if you've got them on maximum volume. There are quite a few buzzers in the range now. I use the TXI, so let's have a look at the features of those. The thing that makes the TXI different to all the other buzzers in the range is that little fella there. That's the antenna. Now on the local setting, the receiver's got 50 metres range, and on the distant setting it's got 300 metres range. Now Delkin, we're not saying be 300 metres from your rods, but some of the waters I fish in France, I can be 50, 60, 70 metres away from my rods just by the sheer nature of the lake. Your rods are down in the mud, you're bivvied up back in the trees, and you do need that range from time to time. Now the other thing that's really good about this one is the night light marking. There's 4 different settings for brightness of LEDs and actual night light marking, which means the LEDs come on really, really faint and they're on all the time. Now I don't use it like that, but some people do, and they say it's brilliant. If you're fishing a long way from your rods on these big French lakes, you can look out in the dark or in the pouring rain and you see those 4 little night lights, one on each rod, and you know that the buzzers are on. There's nothing worse than sitting miles from your rod and thinking, did I turn that buzzer on or not? Now that's the receiver. You've got 6 colours of LEDs on that, so if you wanted to fish 6 different colours on your rods, you could do that. And you can also program 4 rods into one colour. So effectively, if you wanted them all on the blue one, you could have all 4 rods on the blue one, or you could have 24 rods programmed into one buzzer, which is a bit excessive. I think 3 is enough for me. The other thing about all Delkims is the battery life. I can't actually remember the last time I put a battery in one of the heads, and the receiver, believe it or not, on the local setting, which is up to 50 metres range, has got 6,000 hours of battery life, which is quite incredible. You'll know with some of the other buzzers, a set of batteries lasts a weekend in your receiver, so that's quite unusual to get that amount of battery life. The other thing about these new ones is they've got a vibration alert as well, so you can put them underneath your pillow and that'll wake you up as much as the sound will. Now, if you don't do the amount of varied fishing that I do and fish all those different situations, you don't need the one with all the whistles and bells on it, and there are other ones in the range that will suit any budget. So let's have a look at those now. If you don't need the cordless remote system, then the Delkin Plus will do everything that a TXI does. It's available in all 6 colours. It's got the night light marking as well. It's got all your adjustments for tone sensitivity and volume. And then if you want to build it into a cordless remote system, then the TX Plus box can be bought at a later date. That just pushes on the bottom by your receiver and you're away. And that brings us on nicely to the EV Plus. It's the most cost-effective buzzer that Delkin have ever done. It's push button on and off. It's still got night light marking on it. It's still got adjustments for tone sensitivity and volume, and you can also put the TX Plus box onto it as well to turn it into a cordless remote system at a later date. If you're just getting into carp fishing, that's got to be the one to go for. Highly reliable and very affordable. Delkin also do nightlight bobbins which glow exactly the same colour as the buzzer when it actually goes off, and you'll notice my bobbins are really tiny, very, very lightweight. They're made by a guy called Muddy that started in a garage just like me, and he's got a fantastic range now. So let's have a look at bobbins. It's always nice to be able to tell a story about someone that starts up in their garage, makes a few products that suit their own fishing, everybody else sees them, you know, and the company explodes on the scene. And that's exactly what happened with Muddy Waters, just the same as when I started Korda. We saw his bobbins, really liked the look of them, we all got on them, the word spread, and now virtually every top angler in the country is using them. So to talk you through the range, the ones I've got on there and the ones that you'll see in most of the programs that I make are the old school bobbins. They're the very lightest one. The clear ones weigh only 2 grams, the bobbin. These white ones weigh 3 grams. And the thing about having really light bobbins on is you're able to get the line sunk on the bottom of the lake. And from doing all the underwater filming, we've seen just how important it is to get everything flat on the bottom. So during this whole session and the session at Maison, I was fishing with a flying back lead and a back lead and a very, very light bobbin with some drop on it. And that's something that a lot of people do wrong. They fish the bobbins right up at the top. The lines are bowstring tight out to the rig, and we've seen from filming the underwater films that most of that line is off the bottom, which makes it very, very easy for the fish to see it. So by combining a flying back lead and a back lead and a very light bobbin, you're keeping everything on the bottom, so when the fish come into the baited area, there's no line to spook them out of the way. I've got my old school bobbins attached to 6-inch chains, that's the standard length, and those chains are available in 4 different options. You've got the light coloured chain with 2 different coloured ends and the dark coloured chain with 2 different coloured ends as well, if you want to be all ultra cult about it. And they also do a longer chain, a 9-inch chain, because that's what Terry Earn uses and everybody wants what Terry Earn uses. And then you can get chunky chains as well in the same 4 options. And then a very, very lightweight cord as well, weighs absolutely nothing, and Muddy's just done me a set of those up with the very, very light old school clears on the top of them. That weighs about 3 grams, the whole thing. So if I'm fishing really close in and I'm slack lining, those are the ones to use. And then moving over to the heads, obviously you've got the old school, which are the tiniest ones, and then the lights, ever so slightly heavier, the standard, and then the long range bobbin, and that white one weighs 20 grams with nothing on it at all. And when I'm fishing the really big pits, I've got a great big solar weight underneath that as well. And the other thing that makes these different from any other bobbin is the clips, the kipper clips at the top of them. Now you can use them like a normal clip. You just literally pull that bit of rubber up to adjust your tension, or you can take that bit of rubber out of the way and you can actually pull the line into that little V, so the bobbin itself is sort of semi-fixed on the line. So as the line moves forward, the bobbin moves forward as well, not just up but forward. So you can see, if you're fishing for little tiny twitches, you can see how much the lines actually pull forward rather than the bobbin just rising. So that's a nice little trick you can use. If you're fishing for finicky fish, that will definitely get you more on the bank. Muddy also specialises in a fantastic range of isotopes, and they are the brightest isotopes I've ever seen. They come in a full range of colours to suit all the different coloured heads. They suit all your Delkims as well, so you've got purple and blue in that range as well. And to go with it, it does baiting needles and nut drills that take isotopes as well, so you can find them in the dark. And if you fish these bobbins how I've suggested, and you just increase the size of the bobbin or the weight of the bobbin to suit the wind conditions and how far out you're fishing, you will never get another false bleed.